Hello, and welcome to the League of Extraordinary Atheists for Humanism, where we attempt to apply logic and reason to religion and politics. I am here with my wonderful, beautiful co-host, Christy Santiago.
Hello, guys. Happy Friday. Yep, it's me. It is me. We've missed you guys. I've missed you, Mac. I've missed Nacha. His wonderful voice is so soothing. Yes, I've missed you guys. It's gonna be
Behind the curtain.
we have it wasn't hard for me. I had as always multiple topics by Monday, and so then I have to start which one am I going to actually cover? And it was riveted watching on C-SPAN Bernie hold this hearing for the bill that I will be discussing tonight. I am stoked. Yes, and more yes. So, and Mac's gonna bring us to some evil doings of some Satan in our schools. That's maniacal.
You're gonna have to be more specific once we get into it, because the Satan is not people in the school.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, but that's not as catchy.
It's got me there.
Yeah, come on. So, how are you, Mac?
I'm doing pretty well. I have a grape Smirnoff here. I
Oh,
also have some water to offset that heavy alcohol. And doing well. We've had a pretty good day. We just got done hanging out with some friends. So it was a good time. And I'm ready to talk about Bernie and Hail Satan. How about you?
Yeah. All right. So I will start talking about.
No. How are you? You suck.
Oh, yeah. My ears are clogged. Totally. As soon as you said it the second time, I'm like, that is what he said. Okay. So obviously, I'm probably stoned. It explains.
Why don't you ask Christy and get back to me later on that?
Oh, no, I'm good. I'm excited for tonight. So for this to cover this, I hope more people talk about it. It really is important. He had all of the labor leaders across the country, all of them there to speak on their union's behalf. Of course, because it's a hearing, there were people to speak on right to work, which, how I feel about that, but it's important to have every idea spoken and to have the best of that idea put forth. That is the whole point of these debates. It was phenomenal. So I've been excited to cover it. There's a lot to it. So I figured where else to talk about it but here. And so, yeah, I've been doing well because I've been doing this. It's super exciting to see someone govern like for the people that they represent. I know that's the bar is low. I get it. However, you can see that it can be done by someone who doesn't take dark money. So
that's one of the biggest issues about it. So
right.
Yeah. So let's dive into it. Let's organize. Let's look organized for our first topic.
Defend the right of workers to organize. You can find it on YouTube for free. If you can't, ask me and I will send it to you. We'll also be adding it to the description box so you can watch it on your own. It is 1 hour and 59 minutes and 47 seconds. It's 2 hours. So it will take 2 hours unless you listen to it sped up. It's worth it. I promise. There'll be a couple people that speak that you'll want to fast forward, but don't hear them out. A couple of times I did, my eye twitched a little like, oh, how is he allowed to say certain things? But the other people were really good at presenting their argument for unions and unionization and the right of workers to decide that they want a union and to be able to get that first draft of where they sit down and decide, not 2 years from the time they voted to organize, within 30 days. Like, there needs to be someone on the side of workers. So workplace democracy, I love that. I think we do live in a democracy. Yeah, I know it's flawed. However, our workplaces are draconian as hell. And I know that that's just really hard for a lot of people to hear, because it is the way that it is. And it's like you're attacking someone because that's the system they know. And I get that feeling. It wasn't easy to come to that realization myself, but there's a boss and you do what the boss says. That's just the way it is. It's a top-down system. Bringing democracy into the workplace is a phenomenal idea. There are great experiments and examples of this not only working, but thriving for decades and decades in Italy and all over the country. If you're ever interested in any of those stories, let me know and I'll just send anyone the information they would like on the success of those stories, the co-ops, if you will, where democracy is literally the name of the game in the workplace. They vote on who their boss is going to be. They vote on how much their money everyone's going to make. Like, yes to all of that. Okay, so by calling workplace democracy and this being a workplace democracy plan, yes. So you can see I'm a little bit excited about this story. Double union membership within a 5 to 10 year, that is one of the goals. Establish federal protections against the firing of workers for any reason other than just cause. Like those Starbucks workers who voted to organized and then voted to unionize on their own. Those were their wishes and they were fired. Like, that's not acceptable. That's union busting and it's actually illegal. So there needs to actually be repercussions when businesses, organizations do these crimes. Provide unions.
That's crazy talk.
I know. I'm dreaming. Provide unions the ability to organize through a majority sign-up process and enact first contract provisions to ensure companies cannot prevent a union from forming by denying a first contract. That is what I was speaking of earlier. Deny federal contracts to companies that pay poverty wages. You heard that right. In this bill, it would deny federal contracts. That would be corporate welfare. Deny corporate welfare to any of these companies or corporations that pay poverty wages. So if your workers need food assistance, then you do not get federal funding. I love it. It has teeth. I love it. Or deny federal contracts to companies or corporations that outsource jobs overseas. Yes. Deny federal contracts to companies or corporations who engage in union busting, deny good benefits, and pay CEOs outrageous compensation packages. Eliminate. And there's more. There's more.
But wait, Bernie is not done yet.
Eliminate right to work for less laws and guarantees the right to unionize for workers historically excluded from labor protections, like farm workers and domestic workers. It was the trade union movement that built the middle class, that gave us weekends, that gave us the 40-hour work week. You sleep for 8 hours, you have 8 hours to yourself, and you give 8 hours to work, 5 days a week. That's because of unions. Okay. And it is the trade union movement that is going to rebuild the middle class in America once again. In order to strengthen the United States middle class, Uh, we need to restore workers' rights to bargain for better wages, benefits, and working conditions. That is what workplace democracy is all about. There is no doubt that union membership is good for workers. Union workers earn 22% more on average than non-union workers. In the United States today, 72% of union workers have a defined benefit pension plan that guarantees an income in retirement, compared to just 14% of non-union workers. Union workers are also half as likely to be victims of health and safety violations or of wage theft, and 18% more likely to have good health coverage. Declining unionization has fueled rising inequality. Today, corporate profits are at an all-time high. Everyone here knows that. While wages as a percentage of the economy are near an all-time low. The middle class is disappearing. The gap between the very wealthy and everyone else is growing wider and wider. There are many reasons for the growing inequality in our economy, but one of the most significant reasons for the disappearing middle class in the scenario is that the rights of workers to join together and bargain for better wages, benefits, and working conditions have been severely undermined with the right to work bullshit. According to the most recent statistics, when workers become interested in forming unions, 75% of private sector employers, this is 75% of private sector employers hire outside consultants to run anti-union campaigns. 63% of these private sector employers force their employees to attend closed-door meetings to hear anti-union propaganda. That is illegal.
Yes, union busting.
Yeah, it's union busting. And 54% of these private sector employers threaten workers in such meetings. An employee who engages in union organizing campaigns has a 1 in 5 chance of getting fired in the United States today. Nearly 60% of employers threaten to close or relocate their business if workers elect to form a union. Sissy pantses. I want to say Microsoft, when their people started organizing, Microsoft said, what's the law? To stay neutral. So they said, okay, we'll stay neutral. They came up with their contract. They did it. They unionized. Everything was fine. And everybody moved on. Woo! Look at that. Right. Like, doesn't have to be a fight.
You know what? I would just like to throw this out there.
You throw it, baby.
So, I don't know if you guys know this, but I own a small business, right? I mean, I know you know this, but like whoever's listening, I own a small business, and
He's a superhero.
guess how much I pay my employees? This is how capitalist I am. This is how capitalist.
Oh, probably
I don't
enough.
pay them anything because I can't afford employees. I do all of the work, and my fiance helps me with stuff at the desk.
Right.
So we run it. If you can't afford to pay workers, then you don't.
Oh, I feel you.
You don't get workers, so then you don't have to pay them. That's how it's supposed to work, right? That's how meritocracy is supposed to work. That's how capitalism's kind of supposed to work.
We do not have a meritocracy. Come on, our last president had his daughter, her husband. Like, come on, it's not a meritocracy. If it was, that would never happen.
No, it wouldn't. But yeah, no. If I was making enough money to pay an employee, I would still try to do it myself for a while because that's good money. If I can handle that amount of work and make so much money, that's great. I can put in that time and I can like soak up as much as the profit that I am making myself. It's great.
Right.
But then when I can hire an employee to help me do the work, then I need to be able to pay them a fair wage. a fair
Right.
livable wage. So there's
Right.
and a small business owner can get that. Well then, hey, isn't that
Right.
what Republicans always want to ask about anyways?
Right. When they're talking about
Or the small business owners.
when a lot of these elected Republican officials talk about small business owners, if you look up the names of these small businesses, they have like 6,000 employees.
Frito-Lay.
Or
Pepsi,
the smallest ones were,
PepsiCo.
600 at one place and 900 at another place. You're doing great, but you're not considered a small business anymore. Like, you have 2 locations.
Small. We'd rather not define small.
And if they're the only one in that area of those 2 areas, those locations, now they have a monopoly over it. And now they're hiring lobbyists to keep that monopoly over it. It's just a dirty game. But I do have, there's quite a bit more. So
sorry, I just wanted to throw that in there.
No, it was important. Yeah. So even when workers overcome these enormous obstacles and win union elections, more than half of workers who vote to form a union don't have a union contract a year later, and 37% do not have a first contract 2 years after the election due to loopholes in labor laws. They're not being able to be enforced. When Bernie Sanders, this is about implementing workplace democracy plan, about doubling union membership, but we don't need to go into that. That's not really, I do want to go into, though, provide unions the ability to organize through a majority sign-up process, allowing the National Labor Relations Board, the NLRB, to certify a union if it receives the consent of the majority of eligible workers. Under this bill, when a majority of workers in a bargaining unit sign valid authorization cards to join a union, they will have a union. If employers refuse to negotiate in good faith, we will impose strong penalties on those companies. Enact first contract provisions to ensure companies cannot prevent a union from forming by denying the first contract. Employers would be required to begin negotiations within 10 days of receiving a request from a new union of their employees. If no agreement is reached after 90 days of negotiation, the parties can request to enter a compulsory mediation process. If no first contract is reached after 30 more days of mediation, these parties would have a contract settlement through a binding arbitration. Eliminate the right to work for less. So they want to repeal the Taft-Hartley Act, which has allowed 28 states to pass legislation that eliminates the ability of unions to collect dues from those who benefit from the union contracts and activities, undermining the union's representation of workers. And companies will no longer to be able to ruthlessly exploit workers by misclassifying them as independent contractors or deny them overtime by falsely calling them a supervisor. When this bill, in the ability of corporations to misclassify workers as independent contractors or label them as a supervisor. Like there are many jobs where they really should be employees. And so it would be more on a case by case if you look into it. It's not that black and white, actually. Make sure that employers can no longer use franchise or contractor arrangements to avoid responsibility and liability for workers by codifying the Browning-Ferris Joint Employer Standard into law. They want to make it clear that a worker can have more than one employer, so that non-compete that workers have to sign is what this is about. That law is a non-compete, which I'm supposed to land of the free. You're supposed to be able to, the pursuit of happiness. If there's a job that will make your life better, it doesn't matter. It should be free market. Then you need to be better at what you're offering your employees. That's how that free market is supposed to work. So I really agree with this. If a company can decide who to hire and who to fire, how much to pay an employee at a franchise, that company will be considered a joint employer along with the employer of a particular franchise. And both employers must engage in collective bargaining over the terms and conditions of employment. Give federal workers the right to strike. This is important. Go ahead.
I wanted to say on the I forgot what it's called. The non-compete clauses. That's something that I'm pretty aware of in my industry of working at a grocery store, right?
Right.
If you work at a local, like one of the bigger, like supermarkets.
Right. I know.
In case people don't know, if you work at one of those for more than that, like 90-day period or whatever period you have to go through before you're completely hired on and you have a union. After that agreement applies. So you can't go find another job at another supermarket that could be in your area. And I do get it to the point of like, oh, they could share trade secrets or whatever. But at the same time, I mean, it's just a bullshit line because when you work at a job that you can put on your resume, what other kind of job will you probably be looking for afterwards? Or which one do you qualify for more? Right? This is just to hurt workers and kind of keep them stapled where they are. And I mean, there are ways around it. You can do other kind of jobs. It usually it doesn't apply to if you work for a vendor, right? So you can work, like you can start at a Walmart and then go to a Kmart if they exist. I mean, I'm sorry, you can't work at Walmart or a Kroger or something like that. But you can leave Walmart and work for Pepsi and then work at those other stores. But you can't work for their named competition.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if you can't go from Pepsi to Coca-Cola at least.
Yeah, this is a big area for Coke. There's a lot of people for Coca-Cola here.
Yeah, and there's and I mean, I just want to reiterate real quick why it's so damaging. It's because when you work one of those jobs, you then qualify more at one of those jobs.
You have experience now, right?
Yeah, then you should be able to bargain between those companies. Like, well, I don't know, I don't like how much I'm being paid at this one.
Right.
This one's offering me more.
Free.
You should be allowed to do that because then you qualify to
that would be the definition we get of capitalism. That would be the definition of a free market, of an employee being free to choose what best fits that employee's needs as in the job market.
Therefore, this is an anti-free market practice.
Right. They do not like the worker to have power to be able to then choose, so that now those companies have to actually compete in a free market of who offers the best job, the best benefits, the best pay, the best pension, those kind of things. Those aren't going to even be offered when they have a monopoly over that worker's options for a job. It's just sickening what it's become. It's not fair. So let's go back. Federal workers, give federal workers the right to strike. Do you remember when Trump shut down the federal government for 35 days? Do you guys remember that? It was the longest in history, depriving over 800,000 federal workers of their paychecks. Adding insult to injury, hundreds of thousands of TSA agents, air traffic controllers, IRS employees, members of the Coast Guard and other federal government employees were forced to work without pay and without recourse. Under current law, federal employees are not guaranteed the same labor rights as workers in the private sector. While they have the ability to unionize, they are prohibited from going on strike. Under this, federal workers would be given the right to strike like all other workers. To make sure every public sector union in America has the freedom to negotiate. So, Public Service Freedom to Negotiate Act of 2019 to guarantee the right, so this, they want to, lob this on, to negotiate Act of 2019 to guarantee the right of public employees to organize and bargain collectively for better wages, benefits, and working conditions in states like Iowa that currently does not offer these fundamental protections. Iowa, come on. I was born in Iowa. That's sad. That's heartbreaking. Require companies that merge and consume other companies to honor existing union contracts. Do you remember, I think it was not this past February, but the February before, Wabtec, there's the it was the one that General Electric, they completely merged with General Electric Transportation in Pennsylvania. Instead of honoring the existing union contract with the existing workforce, Wabtec tried to impose substantial cuts to benefits employees had earned while rewarding executives with over 120 million in bonuses. But under this whole package, companies would no longer be able to abrogate union contracts through mergers. They would have to honor them until that contract is up. Because you can't just ruin workers' lives. Like they also have a family. That's a community anyway. Like you're just wrecking an entire community. You cannot do that. If you value America, Americans, American values, this whole thing, rah, 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 show us. Show us through your actions, not your words. And this is one way that they could do that. Deny federal contracts to employers that pay poverty wages. I love this one. Outsource jobs overseas, engage in union busting, deny good benefits, and pay CEOs outrageous compensation packages. Let's see. In order to prevent companies from receiving federal contracts that outsource jobs overseas, pay workers less than $15 an hour without benefits, refuse to remain neutral, as I told you and discussed, Microsoft had done when their employees wanted to unionize. So who refused to remain neutral in union organizing efforts, pay executives over 150 times more or more than that to their executives than the average worker, hire workers to replace striking workers, aka scabs is what those are called, or close businesses after workers vote to unionize, as Schultz did in Starbucks. Dirty, dirty union buster. Ban the permanent replacement of striking workers. This plan will outlaw once and for all the permanent replacement of workers who go on strike. Because that's dirty. That's dirty. And this whole child labor thing we have going on across the nation, are you fucking kidding me? Are you kidding me, America? 12-year-olds in slaughterhouses, working with dangerous, there's a thing called a head splitter that they're cleaning. No. And then child marriage laws, what is really happening? These bills going, you saw it, right? Some bills going across the country in different states where logical parents and their elected officials are trying to pass laws that 18 to be married. Hello. 16 with parents, whatever, but 18, that's the law. And these Republicans are coming out so hard against it because teenagers get pregnant, therefore they have to be able to get married. That was their reasoning. What? 9-year-olds can get pregnant. Does that mean they have to get married? That is the dumbest logic I've.
In some states, that argument can be made.
No, I don't want to be a part of any of that. I don't. No, you can't marry
Wait a
my
minute,
daughter.
you don't want to be a part of it? Are you saying we should have a national divorce?
Yeah, sorry. So funny.
That's another one we need to talk about. We've missed so much, guys. We're just gonna have to.
He lives in a blue state. How? She's in a blue state. Like she. I know. All right.
She'll turn that blue state. I won't finish that.
Back to the news. All right.
Ugh.
Protect the pensions of workers. Mwah, yes. Protect and expand pension benefits of employees in both the public and private sector. Because of a 2014 change in law instituted in the dead of night and against the strong opposition of Senator Sanders, it is now legal to cut the earned pension benefits of more than 1.5 million workers and retirees in multi-employer pension plans. As let's see, Biden could, with an executive order, like he literally could sign an executive order that would impose a moratorium on future pension cuts and would reverse the cuts to retirement benefits that have already been made. In addition, any president, President Biden, I know you'll never see this, but goddamn, there's a act called Keep Our Pension Promises Act. It was introduced in 2015. It's still just a bill sitting on Capitol Hill. It's to prevent the pensions of up to 10 million Americans from being cut. Instead of asking retirees to take a massive cut in their pension benefits, this bill wants to help multi-employer plans. These are people who worked one job, retired from it, gets a pension from it, like a military, my wife's mother, and then works for the military again for another 35 years, retires from it. But as a private, that she gets 2 pensions. She earned those. That's what she busted her ass for. So they want to say, no, you can't have that. What? Unacceptable. So yeah, if Congress could provide a multi-trillion bailout to Wall Street and foreign banks in 2008, we can and we must protect the pensions that were promised to our fellow Americans. The next one you're going to love. Stops corporations from forcing workers to attend mandatory anti-union meetings as a condition of continued employment. Under this bill, companies would be barred from requiring workers to attend anti-union meetings as a condition of their employment. What do you think about that?
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I do too. All right, establish federal protections against the firing of workers for any reason other than just cause. So this is to make sure workers cannot be fired at will, and will sign a just cause law. In this bill, they want to sign a just cause law to protect workers and their constitutional right to speak out and organize in their workplaces. There are quite a few. I do want to that you would just already know about, but this one, guarantee the right to unionize for all workers. So farm workers and domestic workers historically excluded from labor protections are afforded the same standards as all workers, including the right to overtime pay and to join a union.
Oh.
I love this. Domestic Workers Bill of Rights to secure safe working conditions, collective bargaining, and a living wage for domestic workers. Yeah. Yes. Fuck yeah. I love it. And then allow for secondary boycotts. Now, a lot of this will probably get chiseled out, but I like that he just goes for it, This plan reinstates a union's freedom of speech to take action to pressure clients and suppliers of companies opposing unions. I was like, fuck yeah. and then allow states and cities to pass even stronger labor standards than the expanded National Labor Relations Act and the Employee Retirement Income Security Act. They want to establish the expanded NLRA and ERISA as the floor for labor rights in this country, not the ceiling. We will not allow the federal government to preempt state and local laws that expand workers' rights, period. Expand and update the persuader rule. So this would require companies to disclose anti-union information that they disseminate to workers and provide for equal time for organizing agents if they want to disseminate this information. This would include the funding of third-party anti-union campaigns. This plan would also ensure that whatever contact information, email, phone, mailing address the employer uses to disseminate the organizing agent, monetary penalties would be enacted for failures to disclose. So I know it's just gonna piss off every single talking head for the MAGA movement. Fair transition to Medicare for all. So require that resulting healthcare savings from union negotiating plans result in wage increases. So when unions organize and they've negotiated plans, what's left over will go to wage increases. I love that. This is what unions do. This is how this happens. So and additional benefits. So not just wage increases, but and additional benefits for workers during the transition to Medicare for all. When Medicare for all is signed into law, companies with union negotiated healthcare plans would be required to enter into new contract negotiations overseen by the National Labor Relations Board. Under this plan, all company savings that result from reduced healthcare contributions from Medicare for all will accrue equitably to workers in the form of increased wages or other benefits. So it will all just be transparent and everybody will get like a little helping hand. Furthermore, the plan will ensure that union-sponsored clinics and other providers are integrated within the Medicare for all system and kept available for its members. Unions will still be able to negotiate for and provide wraparound services and other coverage not duplicative of the benefits established under the future Medicare for all. I love this thinking forward. Making it easier for workers to form unions is not a radical idea. 62% of the American people, when polled, support labor unions, but according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, union membership is barely half of what it was 35 years ago. In order to reverse the 40-year decline of the middle class, we must strengthen unions and restore bargaining power to the workers of the United States. And working together, and that's exactly what we can do. Are you kidding me? Like this, it just makes me so sad because he was like polling like 20 points up, like ahead of Trump. I mean, not that he was even still running. I'm just saying with the American people, he was just, I know it's what if, whatever. I just, goddamn, it's horrible.
Yeah, I mean, this bill is comprehensive.
Yes, and I didn't even go into everything. That's just, like the major things that I knew everybody would be like, going up. All right. Let me tell everybody I'm bake. I'm gonna spell it just like that. Bake, B-A-K-E. I'm bake. I actually, yeah. But no, it's just exciting. And this is just one of the things. He's having these hearings. I will post it here in the chat in a second when Max starts talking the hearing, so you guys can have it linked and maybe you'll listen to it when you lay down tonight. Maybe you'll listen to it while you're doing something, but please listen to it. Please listen to it. And this is just one. He's been on fire. Check him out. Like, homeboy's on fire. And I love his no nonsense. there is a point where one labor unionist leader, the president, they were just the presidents of the major unions. They represented like, 212 million people or something. Like, it's just outrageous. It's not an accurate number. I'm being ridiculous. But one of them actually gets into a back and forth with a MAGA Republican guy who's there to talk about his company and how the unions were bullying his workers, and he had a whole story. So please don't take my word for it. But he just came out like, I'm not afraid of physical. I'm not afraid. Like, nobody's coming at you, bro. Calm down. So when the trade unionist president goes to talk, he could not stand the guy. You could tell. And so they get in a back and forth. And Bernie is like, you need to calm down. He ends up telling, because the guy's like, it says a lot about him. Bernie tells the MAGA Republican, it says a lot about you, your behavior. Like, it's incredible.
I saw that.
Yeah, it's incredible. You need to watch the whole hearing. It's so good. So I hope that you guys understand how important this is. I don't care if you're in a union, you don't know anybody in a union. That's sad. We need to fix that. But us people that aren't in a union or know somebody, it doesn't matter. Still talk about this bill. Talk to your friends about this bill. Call your senators. Say, hey, I really think this is important. Doesn't matter if they like it or not. It'll still be on the record that Americans feel this way. It's important. That's how democracies work. If nobody says anything, then nobody knows, and so they think it's not that important. That's all.
Okay. So tell people.
Oh, I do want to add, Thomas Bear had a thing that was live last night, and you don't know what it's called. So, Thomas Bear. He is my Facebook friend. If you're not friends with him on Facebook, what's wrong with you? But right, yeah, you should be. He's pretty awesome. So check out some Thomas Bear. That's all.
Yes, gotcha. Yes, I would say. All right, so.
Oh, you like totally missed my mouth. Dangerous.
I was trying to think of something. What are you saying? The only thing I can think of is drink much, and that's just so.
Apparently.
It's so low hanging fruit that I didn't. Okay. So, all right.
All right. Let's see.
Next topic here. Guys, there is so much to talk about in this topic. Satan in schools. I had a longer name for this topic. It was Satan is coming for your children, and so is God. But it's much longer. So where to start? I'm actually having a really hard time trying to figure out what I want to cover, because I could go on with this topic for maybe a couple hours, because it's a web. All right. And I'm really hoping that this is one of these topics I can do it enough justice, and I can do it civilly enough that you can share this with your Christian friends and family. Because Satan in schools is a scary thing if you're a believer. And I understand that. It is in part supposed to be. It is purposefully protagonistic. Just the satanic temple in general, and the after school Satan, which I, for one, think is brilliant. It's awesome, and it's very constructive. If you do not know the after school Satan club, you should absolutely check it out.
Yes.
Not just because it's awesome, but just because if you don't know what it is, then you should probably educate yourself on it. Like theist, non-theist, whatever.
They're literally fighting for our civil rights in this country. That's how important they are.
The
So
main thing
there's
that
that.
the After School Student Club does is fights for your First Amendment.
Yeah.
Because they, first thing you should know, first thing you should know is they do not teach religious beliefs in their after school program. That's the first thing you should know. The second thing you should know is they only go to schools where the Good News Club or a similar Christian club has already presented itself. So they target schools, that is an accurate depiction. They target schools that already have religious after school programs. So there is an alternative to those religious after school programs. And since the Satanic Temple is technically a church and a religious or nonprofit organization, they can do this on the grounds of, let me just pull up the legislation here. I just got to find it where I had it. Sorry, I got to find it which time. Okay. In Good News Club versus Milford Central School in 2001, the Supreme Court decided that a school district cannot prohibit the First Amendment free speech rights of groups seeking access to school districts' limited public forum.
Right.
So, the reiterate, aha, to reiterate. Christy's dying over there.
You tickle me.
I need a shirt that says that. I need to go back through all of our shows. All the shows.
You do. You tickle me.
But to
Sorry,
reiterate the reiteration, if you're gonna show favor to one after school club, especially a religious one, you can't show favor. Once you open that door, it is then open for any other religious group, be it Muslim or Islamic after school program. Right?
Yep.
A Hindu after school program.
Yep.
A Sikh after school program. A Baal after school program.
Yeah.
A Zeus after school.
Oh, fuck yeah. Yes. Can we get Ocean to lead that?
Yeah. So on and so forth. I hope you get it by now. So if you don't want it in your school district, then you need to talk to your school board and not allow any religious
right. None or all
take place on school premises. That's the big deal, right? Because these public schools are supposed to be secular, meaning they don't show favor to any. So, because if you're in a Catholic, very Catholic community, you might not see an issue with having a Catholic after school program, unless you're in a family that's a Jehovah's Witness, right? Or if you're in a very Protestant family, or vice versa, right? If you don't like the Catholic Church and they're trying to push their ways of Christianity on your children, just because they can give that information out and their friends are going and they want to learn the good Catholic way because their friends are learning that, it could make you uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
So, but then you have to extend that uncomfortable feeling that gives you, because Catholics give people uncomfortable feelings, in and outside the pants. Yes.
Speaking of Catholic and it being, Did you see our president walking around with ashes on his forehead all day?
I heard about it, but I did not see it. But you know what? He is free to do that.
Yeah, but and now that same people who are Biden is so are making fun of Marianne Williamson because she is
Yeah, because she's
spiritual. Like
spiritual.
he drinks the blood and eats the what? Never
Yeah,
mind. Carry on
yeah.
with your education.
See,
Come on.
it's a double standard. And that's what
Yeah,
we don't like.
it's
So,
infuriating.
right. So if that double standard makes you uncomfortable as a religious person of any sect, then you need to make sure that you are extending that uncomfortable feeling out to other people who don't agree with your specific um, views and beliefs. So that is why the after school Satan Club is a thing in general.
Yep,
Now,
it's a counter.
how to keep this going only until midnight? What I'm trying to do. So the pushback in Chesapeake, Virginia, West Virginia, Virginia, one of the Virginia. I don't know my Virginia locations.
Our, our smart chat will tell us real quick.
The Chesapeake school there. This blew up because they had a good news program show up at their school. It started, and this isn't the first place, obviously. It happened. Like there's, I think, 5,000 schools in the country.
Yeah. It's like
program.
a fungus.
Well, the after school state club showed up, and they really tried not to allow them in the school. This has been ongoing
They really
since the
did.
beginning of the year. All of the members of the school board on 9 are staunch Republican Christian people, which again is fine. They can be that, and they can share their views and whatever, and they can also try and make judgment that's based off of their beliefs, which they strive they get their morals from. That's okay, but also they have to conform to the law as well. And that's what they've had to do after a lot of back and forth. Well, we don't know if that's in our students' best interests. Okay, well, you can do it, but you have to pay $600 per meeting to pay for 4 law enforcement officers because this is probably going to get ugly. Well, I guess you could just do it. Like they've had to back off because they're infringing on these people's rights to organize in the school the same way the Good News Club does. And there's even been a bomb threat at that school. And I'll let you guess which group. Right. And I will let you know that it seems as if there was a note that had a bomb threat, that it was done by a Muslim person, which is funny because there have been no Muslims showing up to any of the school board meetings, and they were packed meetings that showed any strong indication of we don't want this, right? This is wrong, this is bad. But that doesn't mean that it wasn't a Muslim person, but it does kind of like, it's not a big stretch to say, well, a Christian probably didn't want to look bad as a Christian. But all the people that you see there who are spitting venom that you can see and listen to at the school board meetings are Christians. And the thing is, maybe they're being good Christians by trying to fight off Satan. But understand that from their point of view. It's fair, it's fine. But they're also supposed to go by the law of the land, right? They're also supposed to turn the other cheek they're also supposed to believe that their God is strong enough to fight this. As one man made that argument, he's like, I'm actually here as a Christian in favor of the after school Satan Club. Because one, my God is stronger than this.
Yeah, he
He
did.
can take it.
Yeah, I listened to many hours of those, many hours. But it was just fascinating how people are just terrified of like goblins and demons and devils, and it's just what a terrifying way to live life.
Threatening teachers in the school
Yes,
board that they're
yes,
either going to kill their kids or they deserve what's coming to them, and telling them that they're letting Satan or demons into our school district, our building,
yeah.
into our kids' lives. Right? It is literally life threatening.
This is why education is so important. This right here. This to not have this be a problem ever again. We need to educate this next generation.
Right. And this is just giving people equal time, the same right? But it's important to know why this is wrong on multiple levels. And the first level, and there's only a few, but I feel like they're strong ones. One, the people who are arguing against it all make a similar based argument, which is the Satanists are bringing Satan and evil to our children and teaching them about Satan. And one, that's not true because they're not teaching theology. They're not teaching religion. The most theology that they teach in one of their videos that they watch is hell's not real. And I'll get back to why that's important that they do that. And that they need to continue to do that. And it's part of the main reason that we have this program. And two, this is more from an atheist perspective, if you can't tell, it's not real. It's not real. And you don't have to agree with that. But you do need to appreciate the viewpoint that when the Satanists and atheists come to the fore, that it's not a serious issue for them to have Satan as the mascot for the after school Satan Club, because he's not real. It is antagonistic because now the flip side. I can't remember her name. Do you remember the founder of this program? I forget all of this. That's okay. Actually, I could probably look it up super duper quick. Her name is, I'm gonna say
he's a good looker upper. He's super duper quick at it.
Oh yeah.
These are facts. So facts, yo. I will show you. Let's see. Oh, look, silver. Oh, wait, look, silver. Oh, silver, all the way down to the bottom. This next trim that I have will be the because there's a few pieces throughout, will be the last. And then it will just all be done. So there's that. It's been like over 3.5 years. I stopped counting because when it reached 3 years, I was like, okay. So I filled in that little time while he's the quickest looker upper ever.
I appreciate that. Has it really been 3 years?
Yes, it's been over 3 years, like over 3.5 years.
That's fine.
I think the 4-year anniversary is coming up, actually.
Well, I don't see
how crazy is that?
That is super.
All right.
Okay. So point being, the lady who really got this thing going, she experienced something with her kids that many people have experienced with this good news club or clubs like it, is they come home. And a lot of us atheists and non-religious people, and also Christian people who aren't super evangelical, they realize, some realize that young children shouldn't be shouldn't have religion pressed onto them before some call it the age of consent. And some Christian beliefs say that's around 8 years old, right? So they have some of their faculties and they can try to decide for themselves. If you get to children too early, it's just straight indoctrination, right? They just believe what you tell them because you are their trusted parent. And that's not super fair to the child now, is it? And I get if you want them to believe it, that is a good way to go about it. But it's not fair to the child because they believe what they say, because you're a trusted authority. Teachers are a trusted authority. Whoever they go to, trusted authority. So, a lot of atheists on our side see this as a big detriment because we don't really try to talk to our kids about this. Right? We don't try to push on them that God's not real, Jesus is real, or Jesus is bad, or Satan is good, or anything like that, because it's not a small child topic. It's just not. It's unfair. We would be doing the same thing on the opposite side, which isn't super fair to the child because they trust us, right? So when there's an after school program for elementary age kids, which this is the case in these cases, the issue comes about that they learn that who Jesus is. He's the Son of God, and that Jesus did this great thing called dying for your sins. And if you don't accept that, you go to hell and burn for eternity. So some of these kids come home and they say, Mom, Dad, you need to start going to church. Because these children, these small children, are being proselytized to. And they don't want bad things to happen to them or the ones they love, their family.
This is actual indoctrination. This is literal indoctrination. But textbook definition of indoctrination. What they say they don't want, and even in my state, Florida, he wants education, not indoctrination. That's some bullshit. But carry on.
So let me even just read you a few lines at the front of their website from the cefonline.com/ministry/Good News Club. Now more than ever, children need the gospel. If they're finished. Children today face an increasingly dangerous and hopeless world. Unchurched families in every country, and even locally in your own community, have no legacy of faith to pass on to their children. They do not know the reason for our hope. The next paragraph. A Good News Club meets kids right where they are. In schools. Yes, schools. Community centers, churches, and neighborhood homes. Teachers who are screened, trained, and equipped to lead action-packed Good News Clubs every week, delivering the timeless truths of the Bible in exciting, engaging ways. Children learn the gospel and they come to know Jesus as Savior. We can bring the gospel to children. The Good News Club only happen because of people like you organize and lead the club in your home, at your church, or in your school. You can support our work, training and equipping teachers with your donations, and most importantly, you can pray for this ministry. Now, if it was in their churches or their homes or whatever, those are Bible studies. That's all fine. Like that's falls under practicing your religion. But when it comes to in schools, we're supposed to be secular and fair and time stuff. You can't bring it there because it adds peer pressure to the other kids who want to be loved and liked and seen as not evil to their friends. And this is what it has done. It has brought home problems because these kids' friends go to these good news clubs.
Yes.
And
It
if they
it
don't, they're
creates
questioning,
like
why don't you?
they
Sorry, go ahead.
create like a us versus them, and these tiny little minds that
Very
didn't know an us versus them. It was my classmates. So it's damaging for society. Oh, it's maddening. I'm just listening to you. My blood is boiling. My eyes are gonna pop out my head.
Yeah. It is incredibly frustrating because of the peer pressure that it puts on small children. And when you try to shield your kids from this to a certain extent, I mean, it takes that away, right? And again, people can parent how they want, right? If you want to parent your kid that way, I may disagree with you, but I'm not going to force you to parent the way that I would, or I would prefer you parent. That is concept. So my rights end where yours begin.
Amen,
And,
brother.
and that's another reason why we can't have this in schools where you're supposed to be focused on secular education.
Yes.
Because it's a divisive, very divisive topic. And when when you put this pressure on small children, it can be scarring. And it can be harmful for the family as well. Because this
Agree.
lady that I mentioned, her kid comes home and he's like, Mom, Dad, we need to go to church or we're gonna burn in hell. He's frightened
Oh,
because
that's
he
so
could burn
damaging.
in hell. And the people that he loves most in the world are gonna burn in hell.
Right. He's
Because
gonna
not
have
only they
nightmares.
don't go to church, but they don't believe. It is incredibly
Damaging.
dangerous as they,
Right.
the Good News Club uses.
I mean,
Children today face an increasingly dangerous and hopeless world. They come at it as it's dangerous for them not to believe. We're bringing this truth to them. And
Lord have
it's
mercy.
a stretch to call it truth. To say the
Yeah,
least.
a stretch. Yeah. In the
Right,
beginning is the same as once upon a time.
right. And it's we're so against it because it causes divisions.
It does.
It's harmful.
It's not
And
for public education, period.
it's not for public education, period. And it's not fair to very young children. I
Right.
struggle to say that we should introduce religious classes in high school or middle school at all. I want that. Um, but again, I mean, it's so divisive in our culture that even educating people in a fair way could be very devastating to um, peers in general. Because just like when your kid gets to evolution in science class in high school, their churches have equipped them with ways to disrupt the class.
Yes,
And
they have. Yes,
it's
they have.
I don't know the best way to go from here.
Hmm.
But I do think we need education um, that is focused on religion, and I do think it, excuse me, needs to be fair. I just don't know how it would go in this country, and that doesn't mean we shouldn't do the right thing because we should. We should educate um, our um, our children before they get out of high school on the differences between religions, and we don't even need to talk about the philosophy, but we do need a fair representation that these parents in Chesapeake and a lot of schools in Ohio, um,
Mm.
they don't understand that Satanism, over 80% of all Satanist churches or organizations are atheistic. They are non-religious
Hmm.
churches. And whether or not you think that's a counterproductive thing to be or say, it's still true that they're non-religious. And it should be taught like that. So people don't get the wrong idea and freak out that there's demons and the devil coming into
they have a very, very important part to play in the American story and American democracy. There has to be a counter. If there is a counter in the civilization, in the population, if there are people who counter what is being put forward, then there needs to be representation of that, fighting back to make sure these people have a voice as well. That is the point of the Church of Satan, the Satanic Temple. The name is to get you to be like, what the fuck? But then it's your job as a person who resides, fortunately, by the grace of whatever you believe in, that you were born in a democracy or reside in a democracy. It's your duty then to look into what it is, not to listen to what other people have to say about it on your own. Look into the actual website of the name of the organization, you know.
And a lot of people make.
I'm a member of the temple, so.
I am not. I do appreciate so much.
They're doing badassery on abortion, on it being. They're fighting that hard fight, and yes, and so nobody told them to. This is something they believe in. They're doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah, and I think one thing that I don't like about the Satanic Temple is one of the greatest things about the Satanic Temple is that they're so antagonistic. Like sometimes it's just over the top, and I mean that's honestly that is one main reason why I wanted to start LEAH, was because we're human.
There is a place and a time.
Right? We don't necessarily want to be antagonistic. I mean, we do it.
No.
It's okay because it can be constructive and it's a good exercise.
Right. No, I feel you.
That's not the point.
I agree 100%. I do not have it in me to be that assertive, antagonistic person. It's just not who I am, and not what I represent either. Right? I mean, don't hurt my kids, then you'll see something different. But no, I'm anti-violent all the way. But I do feel like there is a very powerful minority that has literally taken the rights away from myself and my daughters and maybe their future daughters. So I need someone that can be those things for me. And that's what they're doing, because that's not the route I would go. I think there's a place for all of it, but my lane is the same with you. Like we need to come at it where people are and not be antagonistic. Yeah, absolutely. But my rights have already been taken away. So I'm like, listen, have at it, Temple.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, they're definitely a force for good. It's just they'll slap you in the face on the way through.
The funny thing is they're literally doing God's work.
Depends on God. So I did want to share this real quick because I did pull them up. I wanted to share the 10 Commandments and the 7 Commandments. The Satanic Temple. So the 10 Commandments, this is just one of them I pulled up, right? There's different ones to pull, but this is the classic 10 Commandments, right? So because a lot of people like to argue that these 10 Commandments are the super greatest thing and that they're sharing these in the good news clubs is such a good thing because this is where we get our fucking morality, right? Anyways, the 10 Commandments. Here's a version of them here. You shall have no other gods before me.
Oh.
You shall not make idols. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. So those right there, that's 4. That's just like me special. are the commandments, and make sure you recognize that as special. That's the commandment, right? Statement, commandment. Make the statement a commandment. All right, so
So
that's 4 out of the
yeah,
10.
you're saying Yahweh was like DMX. What's my motherfucking name?
Exactly, yeah. Also, you're not allowed to write it. You can't write my name, but you must say it. Honor your father and mother. And I will caveat this because I know it. This, so you may live a long life, because there are different examples in the Bible when if you don't honor thy father and thy mother, the law says you can go and kill that child because they're disrespectful. So you can live a long life. Thou shalt not murder. Awesome. Not the first time we've heard that when that was written in the Bible. But it is still good. So hey, thou shalt not commit adultery. But they don't actually say what adultery is. You can totally have sex slaves as long as you own them. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to tear these apart as I said. You shall not steal. And you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor, which translates to fellow Jew. But you can still lie to other people. Just don't turn in your fellow Jews. And thou shalt not covet your neighbor's house. So that's a thought crime. So some of those are good. Some of those are good, but not good enough. But these are the 10 commandments. The Satanic Temple gives you there it is. There are 7 fundamental tenets. One should strive to act with compassion and empathy towards all creatures in accordance with reason. The struggle for justice is an ongoing and necessary pursuit that should prevail over laws and institutions.
Can I get an
I didn't read these before I went on. I haven't read these in a long while.
amen?
One's body is inviolable, subject to one's own will alone. 4, the freedoms of others should be respected, including the freedom to offend. To willingly and unjustly encroach upon the freedoms of another is to forego one's own.
Right.
5, the beliefs should conform to one's best scientific understanding of the world. One should take care never to distort scientific facts to fit one's beliefs. So don't distort what you know is true or what seems true, just to play the game.
Yes. Preach.
6, people are fallible. If one makes a mistake, one should do one's best to rectify it and resolve any harm that may or might have been caused. And 7, every tenet is a guiding principle designed to inspire nobility in action and thought. The spirit of compassion, wisdom, and justice should always prevail over the written or spoken word.
Yep. I mean,
these are just really
one is superior.
Really well written.
One is demonstrably superior. So there's that.
Yeah, these are just so good. It's hard to pick a favorite. Number 2's really high up there for me. Well, like 1 and 2.
Yeah.
I'll repeat those.
They come out real strong.
They do. One should strive to act with compassion and empathy toward all creatures in accordance with reason. And 2 was the struggle for justice as an ongoing pursuit, ongoing and necessary pursuit that should prevail over laws and institutions.
Boom shakalaka.
So if you keep that in mind, it should remind you that that's why we need to change laws sometimes, and sometimes institutions
Right.
get fucking
Right.
stale or corrupt.
Right.
It's incredible how good those first two are.
Yeah.
And I've
Yeah.
seen some humanist manifestos and like principles and stuff. Nothing is concise and as well worded as the seven
Yeah,
fundamental
it's
tenets.
flowery, right? It's like flowery.
It is. It's
Yeah.
just good.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's pretty words.
It is. They just follow.
Mhm.
Anyways, so when you want to argue the Ten Commandments against these, I mean, you should probably read it first. This is something that should be taught in schools when you're teaching religion. Tell them the Ten Commandments. Tell them the seven fundamental tenets. Tell them the principle base of each religion from each religion, right? Take each one at their word because that's the most fair thing to do. You can't distort someone else's. It's unfair. You can go in and tear them apart, but you at least have to present them fair. And I apologize because as I read the Ten Commandments, I did a good job of not stopping it. That was unfair. So I will say that. All right, so I was gonna go through the after school Satan Club stuff. I'll just read their little mission statement real quick. After school Satan Club mission. Proselytize is not our goal, and we're not interested in converting children to Satanism. After school Satan Clubs will focus on free inquiry and rationalism, the scientific basis for which we know what we know about the world around us. We prefer to give children an appreciation of natural wonders surrounding them, not a fear of everlasting, otherworldly horrors. Again, one of the main reasons this club was started is because that lady's son came home and was terrified of the aspect of hell. And a lot of Christians who are still Christians and now and a lot that are now atheists um, still deal with the concept of hell very poorly. It scares the fuck out of them. It's just a scary thing to think that you are separated from your loved ones or your loved ones are cast out of a lake of fire. This came from Zoroaster, by the way. I was going to use a lot of this time to speak of the origin of Satan as we know in the Christian religion modernly. But I don't want to take all that time. But it's a pantheon of other religions taking this one dude who works for God diligently and is just a lawyer type dude who accuses mankind of not being faithful enough to God, which is totally a God kind of angel to have.
Yeah.
Hasatan in Job. And as the books went through the centuries, you can tell even by um, the manuscripts and the language that they were written in, like what influence that they had at the time, like the Persians, like when the Persians were over the, the Israelites, started to get a little bit more Ahorimasa. Um, like this, if I picked the right character from Zoroastrianism, I may have mixed them up. I apologize if I did. But that's where that lake of fire came from. It's their hell, their devil guy. And That's where that started. And then you see that from the writers that proclaim that they're John in, in, the, in the New Testament as well. And that's not the only thing, right? It's just there's so many connections that you can make that make up Satan, and it's actually kind of funny when you get to hell, because hell is just actually the name of the person, so it's Hades, and it's hell's realm. So we just sort of call it hell or Hades. It's Hades realm, so it's a person. So it kind of gets to that person's going to send you to a person, or that place is going to send you to a place.
Yeah, nobody knows any of those things.
Yeah,
So.
it gets wacky.
Real
But
fast.
not only does it get wacky really fast, it gets scary really fast, especially the children.
Especially for children. Can you imagine the nightmares they probably had if they didn't know anything about that they were going to burn forever in hell? What?
If you're an adult who believed in hell when you were a child, ask yourself if you're still scared of the thought of hell.
Right.
That's how it's scarred.
That's the last thing a lot of people who have left, religious or theism together. That's the last thing that was the hardest to get rid of, was their fear of this imaginary afterlife that would be infinite torture. Like, what?
Right. Even after they, a lot of atheists give up the belief of heaven, like a good place, they still have a hard time letting go of hell, because it is in other religions too, and so is an afterlife.
You'll believe in this, or you will be tortured forever.
Yeah,
that's what it is. And so a lot of people say, well, what do I have to lose? I might as well just pretend I do. Do you think that like this all-powerful being wouldn't know you're pretending? What the fuck?
Right. Yeah. And if you pick the wrong version of God,
right, and there's thousands
on his hand, then you're still going, right? Because if you didn't believe in the right version of him, like, you're still going. If you believe in God, like he's the version of himself that is Allah, and you're Christian, you are going to hell. Like, absolutely, that is in the book. But I digress. I did want to share that I am not bothered by that myself anymore. I didn't even really believe in the burning hell as much. I kind of did. I wasn't quite sure. It was more of an abyss for me, which is more described in Revelations. But I'm not afraid of that anymore myself, because whether or not God exists, I don't think a hell, because this higher power is supposed to be the best thing ever, right? Thomas Aquinas. And if he is the best thing ever, then he wouldn't make a place like that, right? He'd like forgive you for this small mistake you made in this tiny life of eternity,
right?
Or if he does have a place like that, he's a total fucking asshole. I wouldn't want to be around him anyways. And I would hope for the abyss over the burning and torturing.
Right.
But either way, I don't believe it's a thing, right? So I don't really have to worry about it because I honestly don't believe it. But if I did, or if it turns out I'm wrong, like, I'd rather not be a drone who just worships whatever.
Right.
Whatever thing thinks it's so deep that it needs to be worshipped for all eternity. That sounds like a terrible, like, as Christopher Hitchens used to say, that's just an eternal North Korea. That sounds terrible, right? I don't want a divine dictator just asking for praise every moment.
Yeah. I mean, and once you start educating yourself, Yahweh came from this mountain storm god before that, and before that, and before that, and before that, and before that. And you start realizing how awesome it is that we're even here, and how the more you know, the more little you actually know that you understand that you know. That's an awesome thing. It is an awesome thing.
Yeah, it's me. I like the way you said that. One thing that really brought me out of my religious beliefs, which I think is me, and it's humbling, is my God got so much smaller. And you can still have a small God or have a mysterious God with the word that I
Yeah. The gap.
either way.
The gappy God.
Yeah. The God of the gaps guy, right? Or maybe he just, he's the tweaker guy. He made it all natural, but he is behind the scenes and he's just let him do his thing, right? You could have that. But my God got super small to where he became like the God of the cats, like a non-existent God. And as my God got smaller, my universe got bigger. And the more that I learned, the more I realized, fuck, there's so much more to learn. Every fucking turn is another corridor of hallways. And I'm just like, shit, fuck. I thought I knew literally everything, and I thought this universe was made for me. I thought I had hidden knowledge that, like, basically meant I knew more than most people because I knew God. And just, what a fucking flip, And then the thing that really did me in, like, as soon as I started becoming comfortable enough to call myself an atheist, I started quickly, like, I think within a month, of wanting to call myself an atheist instead. Because listening to atheists argue against Christians with doctorates, theologians, right? It became very clear that things that I was reading, they were using as an argument. Like things that I was reading about Christianity from the Bible. It's like, oh shit, no, that is bad. It is a complete gaslighting of just like, no, God had to punish these people because they were terrible. And so he had to do bad things to bad people. Also, wait, hold on. He's God. He can do anything. He decides the worst ways to deal punishment out. And
he like,
hold on a second.
Why does he like the smell of burnt animals? Why?
Why does he do that? And I knew this. I knew that he did these things to the supposedly super dumb people. It's just like he's like the governor of Texas. So like it's terrible. It's terrible. Like, hold on. I think this guy is the bad guy. And I don't have to look anything up that these people are saying because I remember all of it. Like, that's why they call it apologetics. Because they got to apologize for it and say, well, he was justified in being the bad guy because they were bad. Like, holy shit, no. That's just a villain gaslighting. And I mean, to give the book grace, the reason that all these bad things are written in there is because things were not going well for the Israelites, the Canaanites, who wrote these stories. A lot of these stories came from a post-exilic era where they were forced out of their lands, God failed them, but they didn't say they failed them. It's just like, wait, it was us. We did bad things, and God did what he had to do. And you know what? Let's look back at our stories and stuff and look back at our people. Let's look at the bad things they were doing and let God know that we agree. We fucking deserved everything that came to us and probably more. Right? It's a reconcile. I understand that. And I feel bad for those people who wrote it. But it comes off to us now like they're reconciling what happened to them. It's now gaslighting to the people applying it to themselves today.
Mm.
And you see it with the umbrella thing
Right.
of like that focus on family picture, right? Like, well, men weren't over the households right. So we need a stronger, like we need to look to the patriarchs, look at what they did right. And if we had done that, God wouldn't have left our lands and let the Babylonians take it over, the Persians take it over, or the Egyptians take it over. If we just had the better family values, right?
Mm.
And if we didn't have men sleeping with men, and if we didn't this and that and other things, like it's just over and over again, and then we apply that to our lives today, and it keeps us in progress and seeing people, as humans, and they think that bad things are going to happen to us again if we don't force this on society. God will force bad things on society, but bad things just fucking happen because we have differences among nations and tribes.
Right, right.
And Satan Club can save us from all of that. No, no, I mean, Satan Club is actually trying to show people in a non-violent fashion that some people from Chesapeake can't understand, that look, we have differences and they all need to be respected. We're not saying you need to get out, but we're saying if you're in, we need to be too. And
Right.
if you pay attention, the only violence that's happening is coming from the good Christian.
Sorry, and he made me laugh. Yeah.
And it's
Me? Inappropriate. Sorry, I know. I just like I couldn't even hold it in. I can't. Ah, I do. After you wrap it up, I have a couple shout outs before we end. I did send you something on Messenger. It's from our friend.
I didn't see the thing. Okay, you sent me a thing on
Something, yeah, on Messenger. It's from our friend Thomas Bear. If we could add that to the chat or description. I can't do it from my phone. I right.
Do you just want me to read this?
We can just add it for anyone who wants to
description.
talk about Thomas Bear. They'll be able to just directly click on a link.
Yeah, I have a link to Thomas Bear's Discord, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Discord. Okay.
And then I did want to add March, we're lovely into March. And Nacha, our Lord and Savior, does have a birthday sometime towards the end of this.
Oh, it is very.
Yeah. And then yeah.
Yeah. Hey, you're not allowed to talk. You don't exist.
The beautiful voice. And then yeah, June 12th will be my silver anniversary of 4 years since I started. That's insane. What? I feel like it should be 3 years, but no, I passed 3 years, so it has to be 4. Like what?
Thomas Bear's Discord is now down.
Sorry,
sorry. I put it in our Twitter. If we can throw it in the doodly doo, that'd be awesome. If not, let's do live chat. Hey, we love you guys. Thank you so much for joining us for another fun Friday night. I mean Saturday morning, depending on where you are and when you are. We will see you again in 2 weeks. We love you so very much. Christy, do you have anything to say in closing?
No, I don't actually.
Okay, well then stay humorous.
It was a great show. Great information.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yep, stay humorous for God's sake.
Yeah, I actually were. I was just making a little note to myself. Okay. Goodness, I don't know what it'll be the topic. So many things happen every single day. Hopefully nothing horrendous. and maybe we'll have some more like justice to bring you as far as news. Okay, Meg. Can't hear you.
I have a lot of Ohio stuff to share.
Okay. Okay.
Like the rail.
Yeah, bring us the Ohio stuff. I definitely have Florida stuff, but I have a feeling there'll be news by then, especially a lot of maybe justice we'll be able to talk about. So I'm not gonna, hold my breath. Love you guys. Stay humanist for godless sakes.